Hi, I'm Shane with etrailer.com. Today you're going to be taking a look at, I'm going to walk you through the installation on the Roadmaster Direct Connect base plate kit for your 2016 Jeep Cherokee. The base plate kit is going to be one of the 6 components needed to flat tow the vehicle. The other 5 are going to be your safety cables, your tow bar, your wiring, your braking system, and a charge line. Our base plate is going to connect to the chassis of the vehicle to give us a solid mounting location or a solid connection point for our tow bar. Our tow bar is going to attach or connect to our RV, and it's going to give us that solid connection point between our base plate and our RV. Our safety cables are going to give us a secondary secondary safety device in case our tow bar fails. Our wiring allows the Cherokee to receive light functions from the RV so that not only we're safe, but we're legal while we're flat towing our vehicle. Our braking system. Our braking system is not only required in every state, but it's required in every vehicle that's being flat towed. It's going to mount inside the vehicle, and it's going to allow the vehicle to not only slow but stop itself, so we're not relying on the RV to slow and stop both vehicles. And the last thing, although it's not required, it's always recommended, and that's the charge line. The charge line allows you to charge the battery in the Cherokee while it's being flat towed, so that when you get wherever you're going, you get to your destination, you don't have to try to jump start the car, or the battery is going to be dead and you have to worry about that. So, great thing to put in, charge line, keeps the battery charged while it's being flat towed. Our Direct Connect base plate is going to work with all Roadmaster tow bars that are hitch mounted. It will not work with tow bars that are ball mounted. We're going to have removable arms, so when we're not flat towing the vehicle, we can remove these arms and store them away somewhere until we need them the next time. We're going to have a spring-loaded pull pin. When we want to insert the arm, you want to make sure that this tab is in and up top. So all you do is push in, twist, and it locks into place. Take it out, simply pull the ring, twist, and pull out. You can see, with it removed, our base plate is going to maintain a nice clean look on the front of the vehicle. It's not going to stick out too far like some of the other ones out there. These are going to have nice solid welds. They're going to be a black powder coated steel construction, and they're going to work great for pulling the Jeep Cherokee. One thing I do want to mention about this base plate that is different than others is the base plate mounts on each side of the vehicle, on the vehicle chassis, but it doesn't have a crossbar, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to find a place to mount your wiring and your breakaway switch on your braking system. That being said, that gives you the option to mount these anywhere you want in here. Some of the other ones, they have a bracket that's pre-welded on, and you can only mount it in that place. Now, as far as hooking up your tow bar, you're simply going to slide this in. You're going to have a large pin. Slides through like that. Run your pin over and lock it into place. Safety cables, very simple. These are your safety cable loops, or safety chain loops. Hook it on just like that. Same thing on the other side. You're ready to go. To begin our installation, we need to remove this plastic cover underneath our hood. We're going to have some push pin fasteners that hold it in place. To get them out, take a plastic trim panel tool, screwdriver. You're going to see a little slot. You're just going to pry out the center. And we want to make sure we pull out the base with it. And then we'll pull off the panel, and we're going to set it aside. Next thing we need to do is we need to remove 3 bolts that are holding our fascia to our core support. We're going to have one straight down. And we're going to use a 10mm head socket, or a 10mm socket. We're going to have one here and one right above it. We're going to do that same thing on the other side. Next thing we need to do is, if you have this trim piece on your fender, we need to pop it out of place. Directions are going to tell you to pop that out of place first, and then you're going to have 3 8mm bolts in here to remove to pull your fender liner back. What I suggest doing is we're going to take these out first, and then we're going to reach in and we're going to pop those clips, because if you pull on this too hard, those clips can break. Before doing that, to protect our paint and our fender, take some painter's tape and run it right along your fender here like this. Take an 8mm socket. We're going to have one right down here below. We're going to have one here. Take your fender liner, pull it out like this. Just kind of tuck it back. We're going to have a clip here in the middle. One here at the top. So you might have to push in on one side just a little bit to get it to release. And then once you get up here to the top, if these clips, when you pull it off, stay on the car, what we're going to do is you're going to pinch the inside, which I'll show you here in just a second. You're going to pinch the 2 ends and you'll pop it out, and we're going to reinsert it back onto the trim piece. And we're going to do that same thing to the other side of the vehicle. Then we're going to have 4 10mm head bolts on the underside of the vehicle we need to remove. Now, your directions don't tell you this, and you don't necessarily have to do it, but when we go to put the fascia back on later on, it's going to make it a lot easier. So what we're going to do is you're going to have 5 more bolts that are holding this panel on. We're going to go ahead and take them off and remove this panel and set it aside. We'll have one here. Slide that panel off. We'll set it aside for now. On each side, bottom of your fender in the front of your tire, you're going to have 2 rivets. Take a 1/4-inch drill bit, you're going to drill out the center of each of those. You're going to have 2 of them on each side, and then what it's doing is attaching your fender liner to your front fascia. And then on the inside, each fender, we're going to have a 10mm head bolt that attaches our front fascia to our fender. We need to remove that. On the driver's side, you're going to see an electrical connector here. Make sure when you disconnect this, you don't get in the car and start it, because if you do, it could cause your check engine light to come on. Push down the black tab and pull out like that. Now, it's a good idea to always have a second set of hands, but if you don't, take a box or a pad or something and put it down below. That way your fascia just doesn't hit the ground. And if you have any additional wiring behind it that you need to get to, we're not just pulling the fascia off or letting it fall, tugging on those connections and causing damage. We're going to start on the outside, work our way to the center. Just like this. And we're going to set it somewhere safe. I like to take a piece of cardboard or something like this, lay it out, just like that. Then on each side, we're going to have this bracket. We're going to have 3 15mm head bolts and 1 10mm head bolt. We're going to remove all of it. And then remove the bracket. You're going to do the same thing on the other side. Next, on each side, this tab here, we're going to take a hammer, we're going to bend it up flat. Then we need to remove this stud. We're going to use a cutoff wheel on a rotary tool or whatever you may have. We're going to remove it on both sides of the vehicle. Then on each side, you can see where I have it marked. We're going to trim this section of this air dam off. We're just going to go straight down with it. Just some soft plastic so you can really use a utility knife to do it. Just make sure you're not going to hit anything else on the other side when you do. Just like that. Do the same thing to the other side. And we're going to take our main receiver brace. You'll notice it's going to have an angle on it. That's going to be towards the inside. We're going to match up the 3 holes. We're going to reinstall the bolts that we removed our brackets off. We're going to add a little bit of Loctite onto each bolt. Then with the 15mm socket, we're going to tighten them down. What we want to make sure is when we tighten, we want this to be level with our bumper beam. Then we're going to torque our hardware to the specifications and the instructions. For each side, you're going to have a bracket that looks like this. You're going to see 2 holes. We're going to use the one in the back. And make sure you use some red Loctite on all your hardware. We're going to go up through. We're going to put on a lock washer. And then a nut. We're just going to hand tighten that for now. Then what we're going to do is you're going to measure from the top of this bracket up 2 5/8. And we're going to drill a 1/2 inch hole. But what I'm going to do to make it easy is I'm going to start with a small hole or a small bit. I'm going to drill a pilot hole to make sure it's lining up with my hole in the back. And I'm just going to use a little bit larger bit each time until I get up to a 1/2 inch. And we're going to take this Mylar sleeve. We're going to slide it in between that bracket and our bumper core. 1/2 inch bolt, long one. You're going to put a flat washer on, Loctite, or through the hole, or through the bracket. Now that we know it's lined up, slide this back to where it's flat. Then we're going to tighten this bolt down. And then we're going to torque it to the specifications and the instructions. We're going to put on a lock washer and then a nut. And then tighten and torque it to the specifications and the instructions. And you're going to have 2 brackets that look like this. The angled part is going to go in towards the inside of the bumper core. This part is going to be on the outside. We're going to line it up with this hole. We're going to take our smaller 1/2 inch bolt, come up from the bottom. We want this to be as flat as possible on our core, bumper core. Like that. And then we're going to do the same thing for this hole, only we're using this bracket as a template to drill our 1/2 inch hole all the way through. Then we'll have another Mylar washer in between the bracket. We're going to put in our long bolt. And on the inside, we're going to put a flat washer, lock washer, and then our nut. Once you get your hardware in up here, you're going to tighten and torque these 2 bolts to the specifications and the instructions. Once you've got one side done, you're going to repeat the process on the other side. It's a good idea while you have your fascia off, if you're adding any other components for your flat toe, like your diode wiring, your braking system, and a charge line, it's a good idea to add all that stuff now while the fascia is off. It's a lot easier to run all those wires back behind there. Now, when you're putting your fascia back on, you are going to have to do some trimming around your base plate and any of those components you add on. So it's easier to add that stuff, again, running the wires and then adding it all on and cutting your fascia all at one time rather than taking it off and on while you're doing it. Once you've got all your other components added on, you're reinstalling your fascia. Again, you're going to have to trim out around your base plate and around those components. You can see how I have it done here. Once you get it all cut out, you're just going to install your fascia in reverse order from the way you took it off. Again, I'm Shane with etrailer.com. I hope this video has helped you. Whether you're still deciding or installing the Roadmaster Direct Connect base plate on your 2016 Jeep Cherokee.